These days I'm finding I'm basically always doing my own mastering. I do some projects these days which are just mastering as well. But I really enjoy mastering my own mixes. You know, in the early days, I would always send it out to mastering houses. And nothing against mastering guys. I know plenty of them and they're all great guys. And they do good work. But for me, it was a weird concept to, you know, finish your mix to where you thought it was happening, and often with your own, you know, mastering effects on it, and then turn all that off and send it off to a mastering place and then see what came back afterwards. You know, and sometimes it would seem to be better, and sometimes it would seem like, oh, your kick and snare had sort of disappeared a bit, you know. I like to know what is going to be the final product, and I like to mix with that in mind. So these days, these mastering effects for me are actually kind of getting turned on earlier and earlier in the mix. I guess the rule of thumb has often been, you know, that you would turn it on when your mix is, say, 80% complete. I kind of have worked that quite a bit, but these days I'm turning it on earlier because people might want to bounce of where you're up to when you've only done, you know, sort of half the work, or you're halfway through the project. I find when people want to bounce, you know, even though you know and they know that you just started, they tend to judge a lot from that first bounce. So you want it to go out fairly hot. And because this is sort of, to some degree, a bit of a set and forget mastering chain, probably with the exception of the EQ. The EQ I'll always tweak. But most of this other stuff tends to generally be always set in the one position. If I'm hitting this mastering chain at the right level, which is what this trim plugin is all about, the rest of this stuff will do what it's meant to do. This here, the L3, depending on how far I pull that down, will be how much level and how much aggressive driving I want to do of the whole master. But basically, I can turn that on and know it's going to basically, you know, do its thing without too much further tweaking. So I have been turning that on even halfway through the mix just to get a sense of how it's going to shape up. And you know, I guess it's not classically how it's done, but now I want to hear which things are going to eat up my headroom. I'm thinking about that even from the start, because, you know, often you're in a position where you'll get to the final master and you'll discover that you just can't get the level you want to get. You know, you're getting somewhere close to the level and it starts crunching. It starts feeling really mushy. And very quickly you realize, wow, there's way too much sub in my kick, or my bass is way too low or too thick. And those tend to be probably the most common thing, is the bass is eating up too much headroom. Very common thing for me is I will go and actually take a bit of low end out of the bass, just frees up the mix, frees up the master, lets things breathe a bit more.